I know you're gonna get a little bit annoyed right now, but I feel like sometimes women don't have enough strength to leave a doomed relationship. One thing that I have learned as a content creator is how difficult it is to give advice that's gonna work in all situations. I mean, humans are so complex, and relationships between two complex humans are even more complex, right? So it is impossible to be like, okay, there's just this one advice that's gonna be working for everybody. So in this case, obviously, I'm just giving you some general advice, but a lot of women that I've met over the years, for some reason, choose to stay in relationships that you just know this is not a good person, or you just know they are taking advantage, or this is not going to work, or whatever. We sometimes tend to choose comfort and convenience over what's actually going to be good for us long term. Oftentimes, women end up finding excuses, and it's very good to become an excuse master and be like, yeah, but you know what? I can explain this away, I can explain that away. But the thing is, how are you going to explain away the fact that you're literally ruining your future? Or you're going to waste years and years and years of your life that you're never going to get back. And the problem for women, which is basically a massive unfairness in life, is the fact that if we also want to reproduce, then we cannot afford to be like stuck in some really terrible relationship for years just to waste our precious time. You know what I regret the most of my 20s is the amount of time I've spent and energy as well on talking about men and obsessing about how they think, how they reason, and all of that stuff. Because there is this famous scene in Sex and the City where they don't talk like this, but we do. We spend so much more time as women to just talk about them and analyze them. And sometimes I feel like it's just a coping mechanism and not very productive, when we can actually take that time and really invest it in something really fruitful. And I'm just gonna say something, and I'm sure this is gonna trigger some. Obviously, I was very lucky that I was able to find my husband at the age of 30. But let me tell you, once I was actually able to stop thinking so much about men, and everything around them, and actually take that time and invest in something useful. That is when I started my business. That is when I actually started to make a career for myself. But before that, I had zero headspace to be able to create something that was actually fruitful. I just remember, sitting for hours and hours analyzing some stupid guy that doesn't even matter today. I mean, this time I will never get back in my life. And time is our most important currency that we can't just trade off just randomly like that. Now, if you're serious about your level up, then I would suggest you go to levelupclass.com, because that is the place where I host my coaching services and where you can actually be mentored by me if you want more in-depth training. The next point, I would like to send a little message to Elon Musk, who is currently really obsessed with the low birth rates in Western countries and finds it to be a real threat. I agree, it is. But guess what? Maybe this is a side effect to all the societal pressure that has been on women on making career. Because unfortunately, men cannot give birth, only women. But women are now forced to do as much labor as men, which I'm not against women's independence and women making a career. I mean, look at me. I'm 38. I have chosen not to have children right now, or maybe even ever, who knows, because I'm so focused on my career. And so this is what happens when you basically put this expectation on women to provide to the economy of society the same way men are doing. This becomes the side effect. But what is personally hurting me is seeing all these women put such unrealistic expectations on themselves. The fact that they should have a family, they should do the work at home, they should, look after their spouse while have a full-time career and contribute to the finances just as much as men. And you know what really scares me is I've seen some of these videos on YouTube that keeps popping up. I call them the trad wife mob has come out, because literally that's what it is. It's mostly women who make videos criticizing women who are choosing a traditional path. Okay, maybe there are some, content creators that make an aesthetic out of it and maybe does come across quite extreme. However, the point of the story is that if you read the comments, you're gonna see women just hounding sounding so defensive against someone who chooses to stay at home and not work. It's crazy how triggering it is. I feel really sorry that this is where we are right now in our society, that women are yet again forced in one direction. I mean, there is no freaking feminism. What has happened is that instead of being chained in the kitchen, we're now chained in the office to have any form of worth. I mean, yeah, well done, feminism. I thought it was all about choice, but I guess not. So the advice that I'm trying to give you is simply, don't put unrealistic expectations on yourself, really, and try to see past from the different pressures that happen in our society. Certainly, everything can be taken to a negative context, including my videos, including my advice, but I'm here trying to help you understand that you don't have to be a certain way to be worthy. Worthiness actually comes from within. And you know, speaking of social media, I must tell you that my current goal is to get off social media altogether, besides YouTube, because I will still consume YouTube, but I need to really stay clear from some content that, not good for your mental health. I'm actually right now in the process of really limiting my social media use. I'm changing completely my habits in terms of also how I use my phone and kind of my whole setup. Luckily, I'm not using TikTok because I think that's like the number one brain fryer out there. And I'm not saying that there's nothing good that comes out of these platforms, of course. And I mean, I post myself on these platforms, so it's not about that all content is bad, but I'm starting to see what weighs more than the other. And I think we all can agree on the toxicity of these platforms. And we have to really protect our mental space, our energy field. You cannot really let this device dictate your life. And I think we are at a point now where we really have to evaluate how we use this tool. It has to do with taking responsibility for your mental health, like your emotional well-being and just your psyche in general. And I know everybody in the world should be doing this, but I think women in particular, because we're so in tune with our emotional selves, much more than men perhaps, even though maybe they are the ones that need this the most, I don't know. When we don't educate ourselves on mental health, when we do not understand psychology or the basics of it, when we are like never seeking out therapy or just doing any form of inner work, there are so many things that get infected in you that you don't even know about. Then you start developing certain bad habits and you just start having problems in your life that really you could have prevented. And that actually leads me to the next point, because if we become more psychologically literate, we will actually really know what malicious types, personality types in our society really do look like. And I think that education is essential, specifically for women, because for some reason, I mean, I'm sure men have similar issues too, but I'm getting this feeling that women tend to end up more in bad relationships that are filled with domestic abuse and all kinds of things than men, because women somehow end up more frequently with like narcissists, psychopaths, and that kind of thing. And if you are educated on how to spot the warning signs, I'm not saying we're all now going to be self-diagnosing people here. No, we can't. We're not psychologists. But to be so aware of the warning signs and really understand the patterns, we can literally save our entire life from not having to go through nightmares that will take years and years and years from your life, simply by understanding certain psychological things. Last tip for today, ladies, improve your financial literacy. And this is an advice I'm giving myself because I'm still a beginner, but I'm learning. And I must say that, wow, imagine if I would have had this information when I was younger, could have taken such different decisions in life in terms of how I organize my finances, where I spend my money. And I just feel like women are not really encouraged in our society to take their financial literacy seriously and tend to actually avoid the subject and put it all in the men's department. I think that is a disservice. I think we all should be aware of this. And if we have the opportunity to invest in the stock market at some point, always grab that opportunity. Now, in my next video, I'm going to actually share with you why I have changed in recent years, why I'm over high society and luxury shopping and that kind of thing. It's going to be a more personal conversation, but it's actually an extension of the conversation that we just had. So make sure you hop on over to that video because I will see you there.